Hello and welcome to Nikon Report, your weekly roundup of all the latest Nikon news and all other photographic announcements that we found interesting. It's Konstantin here.
And this is Becky.
And we are back. 2 weeks have passed, and I don't think there's anything been announced as far as I remember. Z8 is not here. Z9 Mark II is not here as well.
No, but we do have some exciting imminent...
Or intermittent.
Intermittent.
You know, if you're American, you never know.
We have some imminent arrivals, we think, and we're going to share all our speculations and all the juiciest of rumors with you. But first up, we have some promotions. So over here in the UK, we've got a number of promotions going on. And the first and most important one is saving a certain amount on selected Z full frame bodies. So that is Z5, Z6 II, and Z7 II cameras. Those, depending on whether you're buying body only or kit, all come with different discounts, but are a nice tidy saving indeed. We also have at Grays Westminster, but possibly other dealers as well, 12 months interest-free credit on the Z9, which means that if you were thinking about getting a Z9, but you wanted to do it on finance and didn't want to pay any interest, then you currently can. All of those offers end on the 30th of March.
Fantastic. And if you're in Canada, then you also had some discounts there as well in the Canadian dollars. You got $50 there, you got $200 there on some cameras and lenses. So do check it out, and it may be worth a purchase.
That's right.
In the other news, we have Nikon Z26 2.8 is finally shipping, and it's available in stock everywhere. So if you want to purchase one, give us a call. It is available on pre-order, and we got quite a few reviews popping up for this lens. So Matt Granger had the most interesting one, in my opinion, because he asked a simple question: why 26 over 28? Because it is actually an interesting question.
It's a valid question, considering we've not had a 26mm in the Nikon range ever before, I don't think.
Absolutely. And then obviously one is smaller. However, apparently it is noisier, and it also extends the front barrel, while the other one doesn't do that. He thinks that in terms of optical performance, they're actually quite comparable. So the one is not significantly better than another. 26 has better flare control compared to 28, but would you pay twice for the metal mount and slightly smaller design?
Well, I think that depends on the kind of photographer that you are. I am very keen to test out the 26mm pancake when we actually get one to review, and we will take a look at it ourselves. Don't know if it's worth comparing against the 28mm 2.8. What do you reckon?
I think we should, definitely, because that one gets clicks on the internet, so we're definitely going to feel one for you.
Good. Now, firmware updates. We have a Z9 firmware update this week. This is version 3.10, and they have changed a few bits and pieces. They've added support for the 85 1.2 new lens, which should hopefully be with us before too long. They've improved focus accuracy for low contrast subjects during burst photography with selected autofocus modes. They've improved the frame advance rate during burst photography with optional flash units, and they've fixed a couple of issues specifically in the retouching menu.
Z6 Mark II, Z7 Mark II.
Nothing to say there.
Speaking of Z9, apparently an electronic custom shutter sound selection function is coming to Nikon Z9 soon. Remember CP Plus, but a year ago.
Yeah.
They had this presentation, the live stream, where they had a meow sound.
I literally read this headline and went, meow, because that was the first thing that I thought.
Because they knew. So apparently it was a prototype thing. They didn't actually think of implementing it, but then I guess live stream went well. CP Plus 2022 was online only because they wanted to demonstrate a feature, but then CP Plus was cancelled. Remember that?
That's right.
So they did this live stream, got a really good feedback. So now apparently it is coming in a future firmware update, maybe version 4.0. I think it's worth a proper number on the firmware. And so far, you'll have three options. You can have a look at the Japanese live stream they did at CP Plus 2023, where they have those sounds. So they have a DSLR sound and some other two.
Well, they have the Z9 sound and they have film camera sound.
Exactly. So if you want your camera to sound like a 5, maybe you'll have that option. So 3 options so far, no meow sound at the moment, but I think we all should write a letter to Nikon or start a petition to bring the meow sound into Z9 just for the memes. And apparently you're going to have 5 levels of volume of the sound as well, so which is nice. I think we now have 3, so you're going to have 5. So if you want to fine tune it even better, you can do that as well. The video's in Japanese, but Google does generate the English subtitles. The same with our videos, by the way. People sometimes complain there are no subtitles, but maybe because they see that video as soon as it's published. So normally if you wait for about 3-4 hours and check again, then Google does its own thing, and then you'll have some sort of broken subtitles available in your language.
Yes, although I have seen that sometimes it does mistranslate things that we're saying, but never mind.
Yes, I remember you were Betty.
I've had some really strange versions of my surname in the transcript as well, because you can download the transcript from the subtitles, and there's some dodgy stuff in there. So
I mean, I don't want to even spell my name, so it's it's just a random gibberish things. But what we want to ask you is, which shutter sounds would you like to implement into Nikon Z9? I personally think if they would allow us to upload some sort of either MP3 format or WAV formats into the camera.
What would you have?
Good question.
I'd have like a little every time.
A little bark.
A little bark. Bark's not very discreet, because if you're taking pictures and your camera's going like roof, roof.
So something ASMR.
Like a little pop sound every time I take a picture. It's like, ba-da.
It's a shot.
Yeah.
Exactly. So what sounds would you like to install on your Z9? Would you like this feature to be available for you? Do let us know in the comments below. And now we're going to go to the main meat of the podcast. Well, there's going to be 2 topics that we want to cover today. First one up is the rumor section of our podcast. And apparently Nikon is gearing up for the announcements of the major products at the end of March. So we have 4 news that come into that segment. Let's start with the first one.
Yeah. So first up, we had a tweet. Now, this was from the Asian Nikon dealers, and apparently they will be meeting in Macau next month for a new product presentation / training.
/ gambling.
Potentially. Can you
It's
say?
A big casino place.
Oh, right, exactly.
Macau is Asian Las Vegas, basically.
I did not know that. How did you know that?
Well, when you go to Hong Kong,
yeah.
Macau is one short boat ride away, but you need to get a separate visa to go there because it was a Portuguese colony. So if Hong Kong was a British colony, Macau was Portuguese.
Right.
So it's similar to Las Vegas. So they have like streets full of casinos, and each of them would have its own theme. So like Venetian and other things,
Wow.
So you can go there. And since Nikon is doing that, well, I guess they love that blackjack or poker.
That is a spectacularly bizarre place to do a potential product launch or possibly non-disclosure agreement announcement.
Yeah, Handover Part 4 is coming, sponsored by Nikon.
Anyway, so we have a tweet from a person who said, the biggest Nikon dealer told me today that they've been called to go and join a meeting next month. She also mentioned that it normally happens before the new product launch. Perhaps it's going to be the new Z6 Mark III and Z8.
So they wine them and they dine them.
They do.
So you better write down those specifications on a piece of paper. Now, a couple of days later, another news came out, and Nikon Rumour said that a major event will happen at the end of April, early May. People are already under NDA for that event. Nikon Japan announced that the Nikon Plaza Tokyo showroom will be temporarily closed because of the event that will take place on March 28th.
It's a 2.5-hour event. That's
2.5
all we know.
hours. Yeah, so which is enough probably to announce a camera.
Yeah, I remember when we did back in the day when there were big events for camera launches, and we did like the D810. Do you remember that event? The D750, and they would hire out a venue and everybody would come. Actually, also for the Z50 and the Z6 and Z7, we had the design museum.
We did, design museum, I remember.
Yeah, that's right. So, and it was about a 2.5-hour long thing. Like you did the presentation, then you walked around, you got to use the product. So, that's quite exciting. Now, what Nikon Rumors have said is you have to understand that Nikon will milk everything out of the new Nikon Z8 camera announcement or whatever else they're planning to release. Expect first a development announcement, an official release, then a notice of shortage because of the large number of pre-orders, and finally shipping. I just don't see anyone getting a Z8 before the summer, or maybe even later. This is Nikon Rumors saying that. I was told in terms of new Nikon products, 2023 will be a very good year. Stay tuned for more details.
Yeah, when we look back at this year, sometime in 2024, we can always say it's been a good year in Nikon.
Yes, I'm sincerely hoping so too. Now, there was also this thing which was flagged up with me at the sort of sometime last week, which was, did you see that Nikon Philippines have a save the date thing on the 25th of March? It's a teaser on their Facebook page, and it just says Nikon Day, Philippines, save the date, March 25th, 2023. It's very ambiguous, very vague. It doesn't mean anything.
But it's very strange because coming from Nikon Philippines. So I'm just thinking, I mean, okay, let's go to the wild theories. Let's keep the camera announcement. Why would it come from Nikon Philippines? Well, maybe someone didn't get a memo not to publish it. That could be it. But they published it. It's a second time as well.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like they published it and they removed it. There was a second tweet, literally with the same image, saying save the date.
Yeah.
From my wild theories, I wonder if they're going to announce some sort of a factory at Philippines, but I doubt that. But it's another indication that something is coming.
Yeah, I mean, my thought had been, oh, it's probably just a Nikon training day or something. You know, like it didn't scream at me, oh, we're going to see a new camera that day, because why?
A new app, perhaps.
But potentially something like that. Anyway, so that's another rumor. Now, the last one was another tweet, which was a photograph of an unnamed Z camera that was published on Twitter.
It had XX under the Z. From the comments online, we've gathered that it looks like a pre-production model, obviously, because it says XX. I doubt we will have the actual retail product like this. The image originated from Japan, and it looks like it's highly likely an older camera that's already been released. So it looks to me it would be either Z6 or Z7 or generation 2 of those cameras.
Yeah, you can tell from the layout of the buttons and just the overall look of the thing, it doesn't look like a new product. So I think that it is an older prototype that someone has just dug out and decided to create a buzz. But hey, I may be just one of those naysayers that's just raining on everyone's
well, it could
parade.
Be that. And also, my thinking is, okay, if we're going to skip Z8 talk for a second, if it's a Z6 III and Z7 Mark III, do you think it will look identical to generation 2 and 1 cameras?
Yes, I do, but I think it says XX, so that would be 6. It could be Z6 III, I guess.
Would you expect some slight visual tweaks? We're not talking about actually the hardware inside, but just visual representation. Would you think they're going to slightly tweak the design, or they will just literally keep them looking the same with the same button layout, and they're just going to have Roman 3 under that?
I think that with the Mark 1 to Mark 2, it was basically the same camera. In all respects, it looks the same. We've got a 6.2 up there on the tripod. And apart from the slightly widened battery door, which you can't see in this, it looks the same.
Well, the rumor is it had a second processor, but, you know,
we can't see that from the outside.
Just kidding.
But I mean, cosmetically, it looks the same. So that's why I think it could be nonsense. But that's just me.
Okay, so I'll guess that this is not related to the other news.
No.
But it came there around the same time, so we bundled this up. So, Z8, yay or nay?
I think something. I don't know if it's going to be Z8, but
well, if they're going to Macau,
if they're going to Macau,
to combine business and leisure.
I think it's a long way to go to announce a camera. So if there's ever going to be a camera that's announced in Macau, yes, it probably would be a Z8.
Okay.
Who knows?
With all the rumors coming out about specifications of the camera, do you think that it's still a mini Z9, or is it a higher resolution body? With all the contradicting news we've kind of went through in the last year, what's your bet is? Let's place bets right now. 45 megapixels or it's 60 plus megapixel camera?
I really hope it's more. I don't want to bet on it because I
all
in.
You see the Macau.
Yeah,
you know.
I see what you're doing there. I really hope it is. So I'm fine, whatever.
So you bet on high resolution.
I bet my hypothetical coins on chips, I should say.
Bitcoins.
I don't know casino lingo. I bet all my chips.
All in
on a 60 megapixel sensor, and then just cross all my fingers and toes.
Okay.
What about you?
I hope you're lucky because I'll go with you as well.
Okay.
And if I lose my money, I blame it on you.
Okay, good.
But it seems like the logic tells me that, according to the internet, it seems like the mini Z9 is coming. I hope it's going to be a higher one. But the time will tell. If I'm wrong, well,
Then I'm wrong too.
Exactly.
Then we're all wrong.
But we're just giving you an opportunity to let us know that we are wrong. You see, we're setting this up for you. So you're going to have that pleasure to tell us how wrong we were.
The comments are open.
Exactly. But interesting, fingers crossed. I mean, it's what, 6th of March when we're recording this. So 25th of March is not that far away. It's only, what, 3 weeks away?
No. Yeah.
Do let us know, are you hoping for Z8 to be announced at the end of the month, or do you think we're going to see it a bit later this year? What camera it should be, in your opinion? Do let us know in the comments below.
Moving on, we have some sad news, which is that the EN-EL4a battery, which was compatible with the big flagship bodies like the D3s and the D2s of the world, and also D300, D700, if you had the battery grip, those are no longer in production. So Nikon Report have confirmed to a reader that the EN-EL4a battery is no longer in production and is discontinued. Fortunately, you can still get third-party batteries. We have some on order with Nikon, so I wonder if we'll ever get those fulfilled or not. We haven't had any official news from Nikon UK on it. They are still available for us to order through our Nikon dealer channel, but obviously as soon as we get an official discontinuation notice, we will let you know.
Speaking of third-party batteries, our recommendation is get a well-known brand. I think in the United States, Wasabi is quite well-known. And in Europe, it's normally Handheld who does those batteries. You can obviously buy Chinese ones, but we would recommend just to go with slightly more well-known brands.
Exactly. Now, also, interesting Nikon news here. Nikon trademarked a new logo in Japan. This is kind of looks like a cine camera thing going on. Some of the link classification documents are labeled as photographic or cinematographic apparatus.
So that's a camera that shoots stills and video.
Yeah. And then we've also got projection, lantern, video camera, photographic lenses.
A projector that can go in the air while emitting lights and that disappears. And you make a wish when you send it out.
Oh, that kind of lantern.
That's what it is.
Right.
Exactly.
Anyway, the description is a very vague and broad description, but essentially it looks like it's part of or could become part of Nikon's cinematography branch or you know, anything to do with their cine world.
Well, absolutely. Since we are putting our magic, aka conspiracy hats on, made of beautiful foil from Tesco, it could be a cine camera that everyone is wishing for. It could be just an iOS or Android app that allows you to transfer videos and maybe do some editing on them. Nikon had their version of iMovie at some point back in the day.
Yeah.
You know, so it could be all sorts of things. And if we link the date from Philippines, it could be that. You never know. My conspiracy...
Stabbing in the dark.
Exactly. My conspiracy theory goes even further, but we will leave it for another podcast. I'll leave you hanging.
Okay.
All right. Now, CB Plus happened in Japan last month. So Kappa Cameras, which is a tech blog in Japan, published some photographs from Nikon's stand. So if all those newly released lenses were there, so you can have a look at those and use Google to translate the article.
Now for some third-party news, terribly exciting.
Yeah, second main course is coming right up.
That's right. And this happened obviously on the week that we took off. Sigma announced their first 3 mirrorless lenses for the Z mount. These are 3 DX, so APS-C lenses. They're all from their contemporary line. We have a 16mm f1.4, a 30mm f1.4, and a 56mm f1.4.
Okay, well, let's translate it into full frame focal distance. So 16 is 24. Nikon has a 24 1.8. This is 1.4.
But they don't have a dedicated DX lens for
Exactly.
24, so it's interesting.
So 30mm gives you equivalent of about, well, 45, but they call it 50. Okay, and 56 is close to something like 85. So all prime lenses all have 9 diaphragms, all go to f16. So fairly small and light. They're all in contemporary line. So contemporary, what Sigma calls them. So if art is the top of the range, no compromise lenses, then you got the sport version for the action photography. This one's gives you the best performance for its size and also being fairly inexpensive as well.
Right.
So we got first 3 lenses for Nikon DX lineup. Let's discuss, Becky.
Yes, well, obviously we saw these coming because we have spoken to the staff at Sigma multiple times over the years, and they said, yes, absolutely, this is what we want to see happen in the future. We're in talks with Nikon. We refuse to reverse engineer the mount. We want an officially licensed mount, and that's why it's taking so long. So that finally paid off for them, and we're really glad that it did. We're glad also to see that it's DX lenses for the simple reason that Nikon really don't have any dedicated DX primes. And I think that it's quite a missing market for them. The DX cameras in Nikon's mirrorless lineup are very, very strong. And yet they don't have enough lenses just for that system, just for those consumers who want to use DX cameras, I think.
All right, I have a question for you, well, two actually. So first one up is, did Nikon then abandon the whole DX lineup and they kind of ask Sigma to step in and release those? What do you think?
No, I think that Nikon have their roadmap. They've already said what they're planning to release in the imminent, that's their word again. In the immediate future. We've got the 12-24 and a 24mm DX pancake lens. So we've got those two, but those are the only two. And then we've got the 18-140. There's nothing else that's on that lineup, is there?
That's true.
So I don't think that Nikon have abandoned the DX lineup, but they've gone, okay, guys, thanks. You've asked us enough times.
Well,
We're going to let you make things that are not in complete competition with what we've already got coming out.
But that's because we don't have the lens on the roadmap. So did they abandon them then or not?
Well, none of those focal lengths are focal lengths that Nikon would make themselves out.
Okay, I'll give it to you straight. Okay, I think that Nikon doesn't keep DX line as a main market.
No, sure.
We all know that.
Maybe not in Europe, but if we were to look at the CEPA numbers of DX to FX ratio in Asia, for example, they have a huge uptake over there. Why they let Sigma make these three lenses, I'm not going to be able to tell you, but I think that it's good that they did. And I think that it's encouraging that we've got another brand making DX lenses.
Okay, so my point is that we saw the roadmap. There are no more lenses. There's only 24 is coming and 12-24. Nothing else there. So cricket sounds, if you see what I mean. Tell us what you think, actually, because obviously, like camera like Z90, while being DX camera and it would be a replacement G500, that's fine. I don't think that we need a set of DX lenses for this camera, because if this camera is designed for sports and wildlife photography, people would buy a longer full frame lenses to use it on. So I don't really see how camera like Z90, aka G500 replacement, needs a DX lenses. But obviously something like 17-55 2.8 would be nice to have. They had it on F-mount. Unless they're trying to make the cameras cheaper and we need a set of cheaper lenses to address this market. And I think it's going to be a good market for Nikon because it will sell in higher volumes. But from the roadmap, it just doesn't look this way. So Sigma is stepping in. But the question is, why is Sigma stepping in with these lenses? Why it's not something like art lenses? And do you think it's because of some sort of agreement or negotiations between Sigma and Nikon what to release? Because the rumors were that Nikon doesn't want third parties like Tamron and Sigma to release the lenses that overlap with their lineup. Do you think this is the case or not? I can tell you that Sigma CEO Kazuto Yamaki, who had an interview with French website called phototrend.fr, he said that while he knows about those rumors, he's not aware of any negotiations of Sigma with Nikon, that CEO tells you. But I don't expect them to confirm or deny that, if you see what I mean, because big companies don't do this. They don't take it out to the public. It's all done internally, and they don't want to damage relationships. But do you think it would be the case or not?
I think that there must be a certain amount of agreement, because we look at the Tamron 70-300 and that was very coordinated. It looks very coordinated just based on what else we were seeing in the Nikon lineup. People were asking for a full frame 70-300. Nikon said, we don't want to make that right now. We've got other things to do. You know what, Tamron? You can do it. And I do think that that's how they operate. They're not going to tell anyone that, and that's fine.
Okay.
But I will say this. Although we've only got 2 DX lenses left on the roadmap, that roadmap is not the be-all, end-all of all Nikon Z lenses ever. There are obviously going to be more lenses.
Yeah.
The roadmap will constantly be updated based on what people really want. What I would like to see one of these days, whether it's made by Sigma or it's made by Nikon, is something like a 16-300 all-in-one lens, because we've got the 18-140 superb lens. We've got the 16-50 lovely little kit lens. 50-250 is great if you don't mind having those two, but we really need an all-in-one in that DX lineup. And it's important for photographers that don't necessarily need or want to go full frame and don't want to change lenses while they're out in the field. So I think that there is still room for more DX lenses from Sigma, from Tamron, I don't know, from Nikon, from whoever.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on that. I think Nikon needs to release more DX bodies as well, bring the price down to D3500 levels, with a kit. So we now got the lenses like 16 to 50 and 50 to 250 to feed that range. So we need to make something that is available, let's say under £500 or so, to sell to people who don't really do photography as much, and they just need a family camera that would last them for another maybe 5-10 years.
That's right. Now, obviously, the technology in mirrorless cameras and the overall manufacturing costs and everything is a little bit more expensive. So I don't think we're ever going to see a Z camera that will hit the £300 price mark anymore.
Yeah, we had inflation since then. So yes, I think £300 mark is now unachievable. We probably will settle maybe between 400 and 500. Just if you look at the whole inflations over the last 3 years, yeah, definitely the prices haven't moved up.
That's right.
SIPA did a report recently on saying that actually in last 5 years, the prices went up about 6 times. So, so it is a possibility, yeah. And also, obviously, it's to do not just with inflation, but also currency exchange rates as well.
Yes.
All right. So they had those lenses on display at CP Plus. You could look at them, but unfortunately, they didn't have them available for tests. We don't have them.
Don't touch.
Exactly. But we don't know the release date yet. We don't know the prices. So as soon as they become available, we definitely will update you. We will stock them in our store as well. So once we have that information, we definitely will let you know, and you will be able to order online. Now let's talk about future releases. In other interview which is on YouTube, and we linked it in the description below, with CNED, they said that they're going to release more lenses in the first half of the year for Nikon Z mount. What do you think those lenses are? For me, personally, I'm not a sports and wildlife photographer, but I know that a lot of photographers love that series. For me, the whole meat of Sigma lineup is art lenses. Those are no compromise, very high optical quality lenses, big and heavy, but compared to offerings from Nikon, they are a lot cheaper. And they can compete with those in terms of optical quality. So do you think we will see the art lenses from Sigma at some point in the future?
Yeah, I think if I was to make a little wish list of what I would want Sigma to do next, I'd say 150 to 600 would be a really smart move, because there are a huge number of users already out there in the market using the F-mount version. So having a Z native version would make a lot of sense. The little 18 to 300 or 16 to 300, whatever, I think that makes sense as a DX all-in-one. And then after that, or in conjunction with that, I would say the art lenses for sure. We don't have sort of like an art series 28mm in the Nikon lineup. It would be nice to have a Sigma, 1.4 28mm. They've always done beautifully with their 35 1.4 Sigma art. Something around the 105 end would be nice. So yeah, I think there's definitely a gap for them.
Absolutely. On that question, unfortunately, the CEO of Sigma didn't answer it directly, but he made a comment about Canon RF mount, and we saw the launch of Voigtlander lenses for Canon RF mount. And again, it was a very similar to Nikon situation where Nikon didn't have any third-party lens, and the first company that came in and released lens was Kochkin of Voigtlander.
Yeah.
So what he said about RF mount, that the whole bayonet is still very young, it's about 5 years old. So they are hoping in the future to release the lenses for Canon RF as well.
Right.
But the reason why I'm mentioning that is just to say that from their point of view, they feel like that maybe because the mount is young, that the companies want to build their own system first,
right,
then letting anyone in. And Nikon was in a similar situation before.
Yeah.
I'm glad that we are slightly ahead of Canon on that, because now we've got all the third parties, including all the Chinese manufacturers. But I'm really glad that we finally have those Sigma lenses after very long time discussing and having rumors about this. It's finally happened. They put their foot in the door with those DX lenses, so hopefully the full frameless lenses come in. And I'm personally very happy with it. So
yes.
So tell us what you think about Sigma lenses. Would you potentially buy Sigma art lenses when they releases? I know that the DX lineup maybe is not for everyone. And one of the strange things they say, we want to see what the take up on that is, what the feedback from the users. I don't think that DX lenses is a right move as your first lenses to see the feedback, to see the popularity.
Yes.
If you release something like 51.4 art lens, like they just released a new version of it for other mounts, that one probably will have better sales than DX lenses. But I guess let's wait and see. Let's see what happens. The good thing that those lenses already exist. They're not designing those lenses from scratch.
No.
They are available for all mirrorless mounts except Canon, of course. It's not going to take them a lot of time to adapt a certain lens to Nikon Z mount.
Yeah.
But we definitely want to know what you think.
Exciting. Next up, Christina Voigtlander have announced a Nocton 55 f1.2 SL2S lens for the Nikon F mount. So this is a surprising one.
Excuse me, what? F mount? Not Z mount?
Yeah, so essentially, we weren't expecting this, but we're very happy that they've done it. They said, so the mount is an AIS mount with built-in CPU, which is a first because Nikon don't have CPU contacts on their 55 1.2 or their 50 1.2. They said, equipped with an AI coupler, it is possible to use a wide variety of bodies from the film SLRs of yesteryear to the latest digital SLRs. Now, we are very excited about this incoming lens. It has a minimum aperture of f/16. It has 7 elements in 6 groups, a close focusing distance of 45 centimeters, which is about the same as the Nikon, and weighs a mere 365 grams.
Okay, well, it's very interesting because they already have 58 1.4, which is, according to many people, is magical F-mount lens, just due to its very interesting character. So it's 55 1.2, so it's obviously wider aperture. We also have Nikon 51 and 55 1.2 that it will compete directly with. I assume it being slightly more modern design, it probably will perform better on current F-mount cameras like D850 with the high-resolution sensors, so maybe they will be a little bit better wide open. You never know, but obviously we will need to see and compare them.
Yeah.
But what do you think? Why is such an interesting decision to release a Nikon F-mount lenses this day and age? Because everyone seems to go for Z-mount and abandoning their DSLRs and film cameras. Is it designed for digital camera, or do you think it's designed for film cameras in mind, which are getting trendy with young people nowadays?
With the young folk.
I consider myself young.
So I think it is an interesting move. I don't totally understand the logic behind it, but I wouldn't say that it's a bad move. It's nice to kind of give some love to the F mount, and I don't know if they've produced it for any other mount. Sometimes they do that where they'll produce it for multiple mounts at the same time. But I'm very excited to see how it performs up against my own 55 1.2 AI, which I've had and loved and used for a number of years. But having a lens that is designed so that it will be optimized for digital and for film means it could be even better than the Nikon ones.
But as a business, does it make commercial sense to release an F-mount lens at this day and age? This is the question that interests me, because I assume they've done their sales projections and they probably don't expect it to sell as much. Well, obviously we had 4 lenses in Voigtlander lens Nikon F lineup. So we get 28, 40, 58 and 90. And now adding 55 into the mix, which will compete with 58, which is quite highly regarded. What do you think? It's a very interesting decision. I mean, I obviously welcome it from a photography point of view, and I would love to try it out. Definitely, we probably will review it.
You want to make a guess on the price?
Yes, please.
Go for it. Make a guess on the price.
Based on the price of 58 1.4, which is 519, I would say this one would be at least maybe a couple of £100 up. So I would assume it would be something around 749. What's your guess?
Okay. I was thinking it was going to be a bit more expensive just based on the price of the Z lenses that have the more recent announcements in the Z lineup have been in the 800s. So I was thinking it was going to be more like 849 or 899, something like that.
Very interesting. If you are a film shooter or DSLR user, do let us know if you would be purchasing this lens, if you think it's a waste of time from Voigtlander. Are you welcoming it in the Nikon lineup? Let us know in the comments below.
That's right. Now, speaking of Voigtlander, we have 2 new lenses that we spoke about a few weeks ago. They are now in stock. The first one is the 15mm f4.5 aspherical. This is a super wide Helia lens.
Nice. So this one, compared to the other mount version, so Sony mount and Leica mount,
Yes.
the hood on this one is actually removable. It's not removable on the previous one. So that's an interesting decision from Voigtlander. So we're going to definitely test this one. And it is, if you want to know the performance of this lens, do head to Sony forums or Leica forums on this one, because optical performance should be very similar. Now, the other lens that I'm personally excited about is 50 f1.0.
This is a big, meaty lens. It does cost just under £1,700, so it's not a cheap one. And it is very, very exciting. We're looking forward to seeing how this kind of pans out on actual cameras and through testing and reviewing over the course of the next couple of weeks once we get a demo.
Well, so far from what I've read on Leica forums, it's quite magical. And a lots of people compare it with the Leica version of this, which costs about 5 times the price. So, if people say that it gets really close to performance of this, then I am very excited. And the images that I've seen so far look very interesting. Now, obviously, you mentioned it's a £1,700, but we also have a native Z 50mm f1.2 from Nikon, which has autofocus at $2,279. So if you look at that, okay, so you're looking at ballpark something like close to £600 difference.
Yes.
Tell us what you think. Would you buy a Nikon lens or Voigtlander lens? Do you need an autofocus?
This lens is the 51.2 Nikon is massive in comparison to the Voigtlander. So that's one thing to bear in mind. But we'll be testing it. Believe you me, we will be testing it out.
I personally think that as a budget option, at £1,700, I like how we talk budget. It's like when we talk about a long telephoto lens, 600 f4, which costs £18,000.
Budget.
I say, just get a 400 5.6 or something.
But for a budget option, get the 806.3. Yeah.
It's only $6,000. But I think if you don't need autofocus and if you want something more compact, then Voigtlander lens might be a good option. But I think if you're pro and you need autofocus, you want to quickly isolate the subject, you should, in a poor lit environments where manual focusing could be quite difficult sometimes just because it's not well lit, then obviously Nikon Z 50mm lens is fantastic choice. It's been on 10% off as well very recently, which just finished. So at those prices, I think Nikon is quite competitive, but if you don't need autofocus, then you can get similar lens cheaper.
For sure.
All right, the next one up, talking about Nikon Z lenses and software that corrects them. The DxO software released 4 new models for Nikon Z lenses. So that's including Z17-28 to 2.8 lens, Z100 to 400, and the same lens with 1.4 and 2 times teleconverter. So if you use the DxO software, it's a welcome upgrade, I'm sure. I personally still would like them to support Z9 high efficiency RAW at some point, since that codec is now available. Lightroom and Capture One released updates for this. So hopefully that will come in the future as well. Now, speaking of third-party lenses for Nikon Z mounts, we had obviously CP+, and there were quite a few lenses on display in there.
Indeed. So we have TT Artisan, who've been rumored to announce a 100 2.8 2 times macro lens for the Z mount, which could be quite interesting. There was a very fuzzy looking picture of it. So on some rumor site somewhere. We also have Mikey, who announced a new 60mm f2.8 DX or APS-C manual focus macro for the Z mount, priced at $189. They've coupled it up with the ZFC on their images, on their sample images, and apparently the lens is going to start shipping on the 10th of March, so very soon indeed.
Nice. And then we have a company called Camlin releasing 70mm f1.1, so very wide aperture lens, manual focus for Z mount. So there's a picture of that on the screen. And then Laowa, which is well known and actually quite well regarded company, they are releasing 28mm f1.2 lens.
Yeah.
That one is good, isn't it?
Yeah, the 70 is interesting because it's a 71.1, so it's going to be a portrait lens, really. And it's a chunky lens by the looks of things. Excellent. Now we also have Lensbaby, who announced a new double glass Mark II optic and Composer Pro Mark II setup for the Z and F mount. Really don't know. I mean, Lensbaby is one of those lenses or one of those products that produces very unique and creative images, I would say.
Yeah.
So,
do you think they have a D glass or spherical elements? Do you think it's an Apple Lensbaby?
no.
Okay.
I do not think so. So it looks like they've got this they've improved the tilt function. They've made it compatible with Z and F mount. It's got this optic swap system that a lot of the Lensbabies have that can use a lot of the different optics available. So if you're a Lensbaby user, then you might find that quite exciting.
Yeah, I mean, at $370, it's a lot of money to spend on a creative lens that you may not use as often. But I guess if you like that effect, then definitely, I mean, it's a new option for you available for native Z mount, which is really nice. Now, speaking of cheaper creating tools, the 7 Artisans announced a handheld diopter effect filter for creative photography. So what that is basically...
Here's one I made earlier.
A piece of glass, a half of it, and they made a handle. It almost looks like a knuckle duster.
I was confused when I opened the box, yeah. But the idea is that you hold it in front of a part of your lens. It's got a little rod if you want to actually instead hold it on the end of a rod if it's easier for you. And then you can take portraits or whatever you want to take, macro shots, etc. You hold it in front of a part of your lens and it kind of gives you this dreamy flare, soft focus effect.
Okay, so you can be creative. You can obviously make this one part of the image a bit softer. So it applies for this type of things. And because you can shoot handheld effectively, you don't need to attach it and detach it all the time. You can use it creatively in different ways. I mean, the price is $29, which is cheaper than $370 for the previous release that we talked about, Lensbaby. So
it's about the same price as an average soft focus filter, but with the ability to move the soft focus as well. So
exactly.
That's worth bearing in mind.
But this one is an interesting thing. We're going to play with it. We don't really know where it's going to take us. If it would cost $100, I would be a little bit concerned about it. But for $29, if you do shoot this type of thing, then I think it's pretty reasonable.
There you go. Now for our reviews, we have the Z85 1.2S, my new favorite Nikon lens by Bobby Tonelli.
Yeah, so he clearly loves it. He also raves about autofocus speed of this lens. Again, it's not very often where we get a really wide aperture, like 1.2 aperture lenses, that can autofocus so quickly. We assumed over the years that portrait lenses are slow focusing in general. So this one is definitely a huge improvement over that. He loves it. He talks that the bokeh is amazing. The 3D pop is great. He definitely says this is a keeper. I mean, they are trying to sell me on this one. I was kind of thinking that 1.4G is all I need, but the gas is real.
It really is. Now, next up, we have the 17 to 28 2.8 Z lens. Is it good for Milky Way photography by Nightscape Images? This is a very unique take on this wide-angle f2.8, sort of inexpensive, I would say, for a wide-angle zoom lens. We also have our review, which is a first look review by yours truly.
Yeah.
We did some landscape and stuff with it, didn't we?
Absolutely. We tried it out. It's a good lens.
Then we have bird photography with the 600mm f4 ZTC, photographing bitterns on location with the Z9 by Tom Mason, who has used this lens a lot and is a very skilled photographer indeed. And we also have our field test of the 600 f4, where we popped out to the Seven Oaks Nature Reserve and took some pictures of very cold birds.
And if you want to let us know where the strap should be attached to, do let us know in those comments.
Or don't.
Moving on to Weekend Read and Watch. So Nikon Session is back with episode 5. It's called News Photography.
Yeah, so in this 5th episode, Rishi Scherer from Nikon School is joined by photographers Leon Neal and Lucy Young as they discuss all things news photography. Definitely check that out.
All right, and the next one for your pleasure is Releasing Expectations, Antarctica Photography with Nikon Z8 by Courtney Victoria. A very interesting video, somewhere called Just How We Like It, with the older cameras. So it's not about mirrorless cameras anymore, so it's DSLRs as well.
I think the D850 can be called an older camera. It's not fair.
Well, if you read the internet...
Don't read the internet.
That's what it is, isn't it? Don't trust the internet. Just don't do it. It's better this way. Thanks for joining us this week.
Yes, thank you very much for watching and or listening. Please give us a like and a subscribe if you're on YouTube. If you're listening on a podcast platform, give us a follow, a rating, maybe even a review. We would appreciate it immensely.
Absolutely. We are available on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Unlimited, and Spotify. And if you want to share our videos on photographic forums, you're welcome to do that. We need the views because we love everyone to hear what's happening in the Nikon world every week.
We do. And if you'd like to find us on social media, then you can find us on Instagram. I am at Rebecca_Danese. The shop is at Nikon at Grays.
I'm at Konstantin Kochkin. I finally decided I'm going to publish stuff on the internet again.
It's a good idea. You should do it occasionally.
Yeah, for promotion stuff. The algorithm needs you to put stuff up.
It does. Otherwise, you don't exist.
Exactly.
Anyway.
So I will be existing from now on the internet.
Until you get fed up of it and then stop again. But anyway.
I'll give it a week. Till that time, we will see you on a live stream on Friday. And we are back with another podcast the following Wednesday. Have a great week, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Goodbye.
Bye.